Okay, I'm here with Mark Howitt of Woven Ancestry and head of the record label Archaic North. Could you tell me a little bit about the politics in metal?
Politics in metal. Well, first I think we should start with the current status of metal and in relation to politics. Metal right now has never been the most popular genre of music. You know what I mean? It's very hard for somebody to get into screaming and yelling, and a lot of the negative images that these bands display kind of reflects an opinion upon the masses, the general public, you know what I mean? This negative image, I guess, symbolism, all that stuff, does have an effect on the metal scene, which is why it is kind of smaller than it should be, you know what I mean? But these people, a lot of metal bands are just speaking truth. They've studied religion and cultures and history of the planet and just the government, the way they're going and stuff like that, and they use the symbolism to portray that message. And a lot of times metal bands are segregated, and it kind of separates itself from everything else, and they say, you know what I mean, these people are sacrificing babies and they're worshiping Satan and they're doing evil stuff and like that, but really they're not, you know what I mean? A lot of metal bands I found too are almost tricked into this to portray that image because they don't know anything about it. They don't really understand the history of religion and culture and the demonic, the occult. Occult simply means hidden. The word occult simply means hidden. So if you're looking into the occult, you're looking at the hidden secrets of life. You're looking at the hidden secrets of culture and mankind and the history of everything. So a lot of bands are putting the triangle with the all-seeing eye, the serpents, the pentagram, and things like that, and they don't even know where it comes from, which is very sad. But at the same time, it's kind of needed because these bands that do know what's going on, Absu, perfect example, those guys are really into the occult and they really understand Sumerian culture and all that stuff, you know what I mean? So they're really smart about that shit, and they've done their homework and they've done their research. Just talk to Proscriptor of Absu and he'll tell you straight up, he'll talk with you, he's a really cool guy, but he'll talk to you about all this stuff. But in relation to politics, I think it's fair to say right now that the inflation and the cost of living for each individual, this is outside of music. This has nothing to do with metal. This has to do with more personal living styles, lifestyles. The price of oils are going up, the price of rent, the price of water, the price of living itself, the things that human beings and living creatures need to survive each day. Every living creature. It doesn't matter if you're a dog or a cat or a bird or a human. You need water, you need food, you need these things to survive. And when the government is charging you money for this and raising the price but keeping your wages the same, it's very hard for an individual like myself or even the cameraman or anybody, you know what I mean, to buy a CD of the band they like or a t-shirt or even to go to a show because they are too busy paying their bills and they're in debt and they're falling behind. So the debt-based economy that we're living off of definitely has a lot to do with this current status of the metal scene, because we're seeing labels now not releasing albums. They're stopping to press albums. They're actually putting the albums out online for digital downloads and stuff like that. So the band is making less money that way. Less people are downloading it and paying for it rather than not paying for it and downloading it for free on torrents or whatever. So this has a definite influence on the metal scene and the growth of the metal culture, which is why it's important that there is tours and there is bands playing shows and stuff like that, because they're selling their majority of their merchandise on these tours and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So that's really important that people do show up to shows and support their bands, because that's the one place that you're going to be able to buy their merchandise for like tax-free. The government ain't going to touch that money, and if they do, then, you know what I mean, they're paying taxes to the label probably. But if you're an underground band, you're not paying that, you know what I mean? You're getting 100% of what you're making from the music scene, and that's the way it should be. The government, or even labels, you know what I mean? The labels, the bigger labels are almost killing the music industry because they're making bands less money and less rights for their actual creativity and the music that they write. They're losing their rights to that, you know what I mean? They're definitely not making as much as they were 50 years ago, and a perfect example of this is Creedence Clearwater Revival. I'm not sure if you know that rock band, they're a pretty old band, but they totally lost all the rights to their albums because they signed a record label to this guy, and this guy has got all the rights to their music, and now they can't make money off that. Their greatest hits, they wrote the best music ever under this guy, and they've lost it. They can't make money off it now, and that's their music, that's their creativity, so you gotta watch for that, you know what I mean? Nowadays you gotta really be smart if you're in a music band, especially metal. You gotta watch for that, because metal, you're making less money in the first place, if you're trying to make money in the metal business, you're almost going at it the wrong way. You have to be doing it for passion, you have to be doing it for love, and the money will come later if it's, you know, rewarded to you. Stay positive in this stuff, because without a positive musician and a musician staying true to what he believes in and doing it for the love of the music, without that there wouldn't be music. So it's really important for the musician to understand that it's not about money, you know what I mean? It's about the love you have and the passion you have for music. I've booked shows, I run a record label, I've signed bands and lost tons of money signing bands, but I believe in those bands, you know what I mean? I believe that they'll blossom eventually, and I invest the money that I can at the time into it. But at the same time, you know what I mean, it's very hard because people are buying less CDs nowadays, people are just downloading stuff for free, so it's harder for us independent labels to actually get a root in the scene and actually sell albums and make a difference. So it's really important that people still do show up to shows and support their local musicians, because musicians are trying really hard to do what they do, and it's becoming harder with the current cost of living and inflation and all the stuff happening around the world, like the Egypt revolution and all that stuff. It's really having an effect of, you know what I mean, as soon as these Middle Eastern countries revolt, their gas price goes up because of obvious reasons. But I've been working on political stuff, not only just metal stuff, but I've been also working in my community and around the world to try to get politics and metal, like, you know what I mean, collaborated and to work together to change this, you know what I mean, because it's really really difficult for us to move on as musicians. And I made a documentary, if you want to check it out, it's called 2012 Revolution, World Awakening. It's on YouTube. It's got quite a bit of hits, and a lot of people are checking that out right now. And I started a union called the World Public Union. It's just basically getting people involved on a local level to, like, you know what I mean, change the government from the inside. You can't just go over and violently take over a government. It's not going to happen. You have to be smart about it, and you have to voice your opinion as a community. And you know what I mean? If we want to speak out about gas prices rising and all this stuff that's making it hard for us to continue as a musician, we do have to work together, you know what I mean? So it's really stupid in my mind when musicians are just cutting other people up and not working together, because you can't have that. You're not going to have a strong music scene. Metal scene is already segregated from a lot of other music. It's not represented in a lot of mainstream media. So if you want this to happen, we got to work together, all of us, independents, mainstream, everybody. You know what I mean? We got to work together. It's the only way, because if not, you can just say bye to the music scene altogether. You know what I mean? So it's very important, and I hope you guys are listening to this, because it's something that's been on my mind for a long time, and I'm glad that you can give me the chance to say this to you guys, because it's needed, you know what I mean? And horns up, stay true, stay positive, believe in what you believe, and just remember, you're your own God, you know what I mean? You make your own decisions, no one else. Don't pray to some God that's outside of yourself. Know that you are the one that makes decisions, you're the one who makes changes in your life. No one else can, only you. Just remember that.
Now, Rob of Necronomicon hinted on a bit of the spiritualism in metal when I interviewed him.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that there's spiritualism in metal?
I'm not sure what Rob was saying, but I know his background, you know what I mean? I've looked into him and his music, and definitely he knows a lot about the spiritual, the ley lines on earth, the occult power, like I said, you know what I mean? There's definitely occult stuff. I'm wearing the Necronomicon shirt under here, actually, you know what I mean? Because I believe that Necronomicon does represent that, you know what I mean? And horns up to them. And Rob, and you've been doing a good job, man, since the 80s, you know what I mean? Cheers to you, man. Yeah, man, I do believe that, you know what I mean? Metalheads, some of them are smarter than others. Let's just say that. Some of them put pentagrams on their t-shirts just to fit in. You know what I mean? They just put it on there just to fit in, and they don't even know why they're putting that on there. But a band like Necronomicon knows what they're putting on their merchandise. They know what they're talking about. Just read their lyrics. Absu. There's a lot of bands that really know the spiritual side of things. And Woven Ancestry, my band, the lyrics that I write for the band, very spiritual in regard to nature, because you're linked to this earth. This earth feeds you, you feed the earth, and that's the way it is, you know what I mean? We're not on Mars, we're not on the moon, so we're influencing this earth, and this earth is influencing us, and we do have spiritual energy to join up and just, you know what I mean, make changes on the earth and do whatever you can. If you wanna subject evil, you can manifest that and make it become a reality. You can manifest positive and make that become your reality. Exactly what I was saying before. It lies within you. The truth lies within you. No one else. You know what I mean? No one else. Just you. And I'm sure Rob will say the same thing. I'm sure a lot of people that do study this stuff will be able to agree with what I'm saying. You know what I mean? That that without yourself and without the singularity, which is yourself, if you stab a compass, like the Freemasons are known for their compass and their, you know what I mean? If you stab a compass and you draw a perfect circle, the singularity is yourself, and you're designing your reality. No matter where you are, you can move over to the left of the page and you still pierce that circle and do the perfect circle. You're still creating your manifestation as long as there's a singularity in that point at all times. You know what I mean? And you don't need to join no cult, you don't need to be no Freemason to know this. You just got to study and just be smart about it. And a lot of bands are. There's a lot of bands that aren't. You know what I mean? And it does kind of give metal a bad name when there's bands representing this stuff and they can't back it up. So you got to be able to back it up, you know what I mean? You got to be able to know what you're saying, you know, for sure.
So with that being said, do you think the mainstream portrayal of metal is accurate?
The mainstream portrayal of metal is just out to make money. That's all. You know what I mean? That's all. They're gonna, you know what I mean? If Metalocalypse is big right now, you know what I mean? They're gonna sign bands that are like that. They're gonna sign bands that contribute to that. You know what I mean? If there's a political metal movement going on and they want to capture that, they're going to do that. If there's a folk metal movement, the mainstream label is going to be signing more folk bands. So it's all about profit, money, motive for them, because they run a business. They need to stay ahead of the game and remain innovative. But at the same time, you know what I mean? Us underground bands and us independent bands that are working hard and still doing our thing, you know what I mean? Don't let that bother you, you know what I mean? Don't let the capitalist market bother you. Just keep doing what you do. Don't let it stop you from doing what you're doing. As long as you believe in yourself and you have the power within yourself, nothing will happen. You know, nothing bad will happen, you know what I mean? You'll always remain positive and you will succeed. You will move ahead, no matter what.
I'm going to have to cut you short here, this interview, because my battery's almost dead. It's dying. So one last question would be, like, how have you seen the metal scene change over the years?
Oh, it's definitely changed a lot over the years. I've been listening to this stuff for a long time, you know what I mean? The first tape I bought was Megadeth Rust in Peace when it was on cassette, and I got one of the first CD issues of that. Actually, it was a yellow case and shit. I don't know if it's rare or not, but you know, I've been listening to metal since the early 90s, and you know what I mean? It's definitely morphed a lot, you know what I mean? There's a lot more people listening and tuning into metal bands because they do have something to say, and they're, you know, linking it all together, which is really good. But at the same time, economics and political movements around the world will be the death of music. So you have to be aware of that, you know what I mean? You have to understand how politics and money run this whole scene. And once you understand that, you can actually be warned, because you don't want a train coming up behind you. There's two kinds of people. There's lazy and there's not lazy. Now, the lazy people are going to sit there and run on down the train tracks when there's a train coming. They're not going to look back because they're too scared or lazy to look back and do something about the problem and fix it. Now, there's those that are going to be looking at the train coming from behind them, and they're going to be like, holy shit, there's a train coming, I'm going to die, you know what I mean? So they're going to make a decision and choose something to change their path, and they're going to get off that track. And they're going to save themselves. So it's really important that you know what's going on around you, you know what the business is all about, you know what everything is all about, put it together, relate it to yourself, the singularity, because only you can change anything. That's it, you know what I mean? You are your own master. You manifest your own reality, and that's one of the most important things that anybody could ever learn, I think, in life, you know what I mean? Cheers to that, you know?
Thank you very much for doing this interview for me, and
thanks for the opportunity to speak to whoever's watching, you know what I mean?
Thank you.
Because metal